Arizona battles Pittsburgh. Look for the over there because Pittsburgh will beat them by 7 goals. And Carolina and Florida.
Good morning.
And now we go to the one and only Clark Judge here on rawmickrichards.com. Good morning, Clark.
How are you?
Well, we just looked at some of the prospects and potentials for the Montreal Canadiens. And even though we will talk about the NFL, do you know anyone who's any good at hockey that speaks French?
Well, yeah. Montreal, they won 2 games. They just knocked off the Blackhawks.
Oh.
Charlie Lindgren, let's go.
Oh, there we go. So the parade has started up again somewhere.
The parade has started, yeah. You can catch it in front of our house in about 15 minutes.
Well, so a couple of issues, too. So was there another parade for the exit of Joe Girardi? Was this happy times in your household?
No. The interesting thing to me is that they fire him, but you'd think when you'd fire somebody, you'd have someone in mind, which means you make an immediate decision. And that hasn't happened. So that has me concerned. You'd think you'd have a conviction about someone. If you're going to get rid of someone who's been there 10 years and has had the history of success that Girardi has, that you'd have someone better in mind. And this makes me think, or I'd say probably Yankee fans think that, well, they really don't have a conviction and they're going to kind of look at the field and sort somebody out there. I hope whoever they get, and I think I've said this to you before, I hope it's somebody who's not a retread. I'd like to see someone like, Robbie Thompson get a chance. He's the bench coach of the Yanks. But I'd like to see someone get a chance. Maybe they're the AAA manager at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, but I'd like to see someone get a chance who would energize that team, because that team is getting ready for takeoff, and they should be pretty good next year.
Clark, when you talk about retreads, would you put Don Mattingly in that same conversation?
Yeah.
Would you really?
I would. Yeah, I would, and he would be a popular choice with fans.
Yes.
But he's had a couple of spots, the Dodgers and Miami, but I would, and I think you've got to get over the emotional ties and the nostalgia and say, listen, he was a great first baseman, not such a great manager. I'd like to see someone with just a fresh, complete start, new start, who doesn't have a history with the Yankees as a player, for instance. Someone who's a sentimental choice. I think Mattingly would be a sentimental choice. He'd be a popular choice. Not so sure he'd be a great manager. And that's why, when Joe Madden came out of the weeds there when he went to Tampa, I thought that was a pretty interesting choice. And then it turns out he was a really good manager. And I like somebody like that. Give someone an opportunity to show what they can do at the next level. And I prefer not with Mattingly, although I loved him as a player. He's a great guy, but I don't think he's a great manager.
Well, I also think, Clark, though, it's also got to be someone, too, that's going to be okay being a manager for the New York Yankees in the city of New York, because that has its own challenges.
Sure it does, but he knows all about those. He played there. He knows what it's like to be there.
No, I don't. I mean necessarily Mattingly. I'm saying even if it's a guy coming up from AAA, is he going to be okay with that kind of scrutiny?
Oh, that's what they would have to make sure that's the case. I mean, Robbie Thompson certainly would know that because he's been there all the time. But if he came up from AAA, you'd have to know that, because I remember when they got Randy Johnson, and that was, it seemed to be a coup. And now you're going to get a guy who's one of the greatest left-handers in the game. And Joe Torre said years later, I didn't realize he just couldn't handle the pressures of being here in the city. And I remember when he first came there, as we were there, he was staying at a Midtown hotel, and there were some photographers waiting for him outside, and he pushed past them. And this was his first day there. And he was sort of, not belligerent, but he wasn't very nice to him. It became a story, became a front page story.
That was the "Don't talk to me." Wasn't that?
Yeah, that's right. So before it even started, before his career even started, he gets off on the wrong foot. And Torrey said years later in his book that I didn't realize, and we didn't realize, that it just wasn't the right environment for him. Some guys can handle it, some guys can't. The third baseman they've got right now, Todd Frazier, he's perfect for them. I don't know if they can keep him in free agency. He's perfect because he can handle it. Nick Swisher was perfect. He loved it. He just thrived in it. But you're going to need someone who can handle that. And Torrey could. I mean, Torrey's got the right temperament. And Girardi, I thought, was okay with it, although you could tell when he'd bristle. And I understand it because it's a tough place. But, it's a great place to work because it's a great city. And that team and that franchise is steeped in success.
Before we move on with the NFL, I'll leave you with this, Clark. And I don't know if you saw this, but the New York Daily News, and you know how headlines sometimes work because you're a very good writer yourself, and sometimes you try to grab the ear of the reader. And I'll read it to you really fast because I got a chuckle about it this morning when I was scanning it. Brian Cashman doesn't rule out Alex Rodriguez as the next Yankees manager.
Wow.
Uh-oh. I'm not sure that's the right choice. I don't think that's the right choice. You know, it's funny you say that because I saw a headline yesterday, and it said Texans considering Kaepernick. And I saw this, whoa. And I looked at it, and at the press conference, Bill O'Brien says, you know, we've got to look at all of our options. You know, Sean Watson's gone. We got to look at all of our options to bring somebody in there. And someone said, would Colin Kaepernick be one of those options? He said, we're going to consider everybody. And that became the headline. They're considering Kaepernick. Well, I mean, I guess you can connect the two, but he clearly wanted to end that conversation. Let's move on. I mean, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, you see that everywhere. When his name's brought up, coaches want to move on from it. Okay, listen, let's go. You saw what happened when Mike McCarthy was asked about him in Green Bay a couple weeks ago. You know, he just let's move the conversation forward. We've got somebody here. So I thought that was a real leap, but you know, we'll know in a week or so, I guess.
Well, Clark, when I'm looking at Detroit winning in Green Bay, which I didn't think was a huge shocker last night, Green Bay has the Bears, and I think of all those years that some of these teams have taken just a real bad beating at the hands of the Green Bay Packers, this might be the time where you do want to play them. And I think, you know, if you're the Green Bay Packers, what is the point of this season? Because I don't think you want to hurry necessarily Aaron Rodgers to get back in there if you somehow think that there would be a chance of playoffs. I don't even know how you could even entertain that, because right now they're in real trouble. And it does show you that, you know, even the greatest of teams, if you don't have that guy back there who's pulling the trigger on making that offense move, you're just in a world of trouble. But I don't know if the league is deep enough necessarily at every, you know, when I look at all the other teams, you know, we talk about a serviceable backup, but I don't know sometimes for some of these teams if that's even enough, or if there's that many guys available, which I assume is why that Kaepernick question is going to continue to come up.
Oh, sure, it's going to continue to come up, A, because he's a proven commodity, but B, he's sort of the hot topic of the day, the topic du jour, and people want to know, does he have a future in this league, when clearly he can play in this league. He's taken the team to a Super Bowl, so why wouldn't you consider him here? But in answer to your original question, what's the point of the season for the Packers? The point of the season is to win that division. Listen, this team went to the playoffs with Matt Flynn taking over for Aaron Rodgers, and they got back to where they had to be, where Rodgers could come in and sort of finish it off and they get to the playoffs. That's the hope. I think the reality is it's not going to happen. I mean, you watched that game last night, and they have that quarterback handcuffed. I mean, his first, 7 passes? I think gained like 27 yards or something. I mean, everything's short, underneath, behind the line of scrimmage. And then they finally took him off when it was too late. And it was clear it was going to be too late. To me, when it was 14-0, it was too late, you know. And that drive at the end of the first half, I thought, they've got to get a touchdown out of this. And they got a field goal, and they were lucky to get a field goal. But there's no reason to give up until there is reason to give up, honestly. And at this point, they go, we're 4-4. Can we find something in this kid? Maybe. I mean, I don't think they can, but maybe they can. As I said with Matt Flynn, they did hold on just long enough for Rodgers to come back and rescue the season. But I don't think that's going to happen this year. Could it happen? Yeah, I guess it could, but you're going to have to take the handcuffs off. I mean, and throw the ball down the field. You've got playmakers on the outside. They're not getting the ball, you know, and they didn't get the ball last night until it was too late. And even then, it was, 7-9, that sort of thing. Ball's got to go down the field. And I would like to see what this guy's got, because you're right, at that one position, it's the most important position in the game. And there's a reason, because you lose a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you generally don't have anything behind him, because you've invested so much money in that one player. The salary cap prevents you from investing that much money in two. The Patriots learned that. That's why they got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. They couldn't pay him next year. They couldn't franchise him, paying him and Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not going anywhere, at least not for the time being. So you've got to get somebody back there who's serviceable, but probably cheap.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.